Yo guys, it is that Panda guy, and I'm here again with another video, and today we are looking at some Region 14 drama, and it was a war that broke out, and I'll tell you guys the situation from R4W side, at least the story they told me. I hadn't talked to GID, the leader or whatever, just never responded to me, but I'll tell you guys the story from R4W, and yeah. So to start off, I will tell you guys kind of the situation around this mega city and just my thoughts on it. So to start off, I want to mention that the person defending as garrison captain is a 60 millish player. You saw right there 57 million versus an 80 million plus as a rally leader on GID side. And GID had the, I guess, player advantage. And I will say they probably would have taken better trades in their rallies than they did if they were able to keep these rallies as topped off as possible, but they did struggle and their rallies dropped constantly. I will give it to R4W for constantly reinforcing this thing. I also do want to mention there was like a 70 million player in R4W and he wasn't really doing garrison duty. I saw him get in there a few times, but I think they recognized that I'm assuming this is the case where the person who tried to take over, the 70 million couldn't because maybe he didn't have Peterson, as you saw like Tom and Lewis right here. I don't know if he didn't have Peterson and that's why. And Peterson was really viable for these guys since they were definitely going to have to hold strong and they need to, this was like a durability thing for them, right? R4W has the time on their side since this mega city, every 8 hours there's a shield that goes up on it, and basically all these guys had to do was endure for long enough for the shield to pop, and then they could instantly start burning the towers around this mega city, and they wanted to do that, just hold as long as possible. And I will also say GID had, obviously the bigger whale player, but I think R4W did have a few more balanced bigger players, though overall they were the smaller alliance by a huge margin. So honestly their victory here was kind of insane. I didn't expect them to win like they did. I think GID should have put up more field presence or at least tried to push these guys off of Mega City, but I think they were too hesitant and they were too focused on keeping this rally full, whereas they were struggling to even do that. Next thing I want to mention, you guys will see MGM in front of some of these names of GID, right? So I will start going over the whole drama. So from my point of view, or at least what I was told by R4W or whatever, these guys said that they were basically betrayed, right? And the whole ordeal is that if you guys don't know, a lot of, if you're in a newer region and you don't understand how passing like mega city works or passing presidency works, whatever the case, you guys, I'll explain it right now. So basically you will pass mega city back and forth. In this case, R4W and GID, they would pass mega city back and forth every rotation, meaning like every week or so or every few days, whatever it might be, right? And that's basically how it went. And I guess it's to, swap the training buff, whatever. In GID's case, these guys refused to swap it back. And that was kind of a betrayal of their agreement where, they obviously said, okay, well, we will swap this back and forth every few days, whenever the shield drops on Mega City. And I guess R4W ended up taking this thing, by force, which I think was very reasonable, especially if these guys just refused to give it back without any reason. And basically this started the whole fiasco, and all these guys could do was hold on as long as possible. And I guess there was no help from kind of alliances around the region, which was reasonable, being that a lot of these alliances are extremely small in comparison to these two. I do want to also mention that, like I said, I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of these guys have this tag in front of their name, MGM. And if you guys don't know, this is another alliance in the region, which is in the kind of corner of the map. It doesn't have connections to this mega city, but I heard from the leader of R4W that I guess MGM has, just had problems with them for no reason, or they've always tried to antagonize things. So from what I'm understanding, or what I'm assuming, is MGM players hopped into GID, basically tried to overwhelm these guys, failed, and now GID is a shell of its former self. And then now all these MGM players are back in MGM and they're stuck kind of on the other side of kind of the middle, right? And now they can't really connect. Obviously there might be something that goes down within the next week or so, but so far I will say that R4W was successful in repelling these guys. They also did make some mistakes, I think, when swapping these captains. It was really funky. I think that GID honestly could have handled this better. I think honestly for the situation R4W was facing, they did pretty like amazing, especially when you consider that a lot of these guys were what, maybe like their alliance might, for example, was I think 3 billion something, where GID was over 4 billion might. So there was like a big margin of might difference, as well as just the top player, meaning that the trades on this mega city were not in their favor at all. And if you guys don't know, so I say this, you know, I've said this multiple times and I will say it again. So when rallying a watchtower, for example, a watchtower, the defenders, they get the injure death ratio in their favor, whereas attackers have a much worse injured death ratio, right? And I'll put the numbers on the screen for that injured death ratio here. I do want to mention that this number depends on your radar station's intel thing, and to give a little summary, that's basically how far along your region is. So for example, if you haven't unlocked Metro yet, you haven't fully completed your intel area on the radar station, so the injured death ratio might vary. And you can check this by clicking on a watchtower, and I think it is the top left, but there should be an explanation point that shows, and then you can see the injured death ratio for attackers versus defenders. So yeah, and I do want to mention that this is different for Mega City, for Metro, for villages. So if, for example, on Mega City, let's say you're fighting, and I think it's 100% deaths, maybe something along that line. But if you're fighting over, let's say, Mega City right here, right? There's a 50-50, I think, spread between deaths and injuries, or, right, depending on, I guess, I think the only reason that defense has more deaths here is someone's hospital probably filled. But there is a 50-50 split on deaths versus injured, and there's no, I guess, advantage for defenders here, right? In that regard, you don't get a better death injure ratio. It's the same for the attackers. It's the same for the defenders. And that's the worst thing about defending, like, let's say a mega city or defending Metro. You want to just force them to attack your towers. So one, you're not having to rely on having field presence, right? Because obviously you can jump through bases and stuff to reinforce a tower. In the case of like this mega city, these guys are constantly fighting on the field. They're forced to push up here because they have to, you know, kind of run through the field to get into this mega city and keep it full. So in general, I think R4W is in a really bad spot, and they honestly, like I said, did pretty amazing for their predicament, and being able to hold on for so long. And although they did take a good amount of losses, I think that this was very much so worth it, because they managed to take over the full area around the mega city, and now they have full control of this thing, and they don't have to rotate it. And that's all because GID had apparently, I'm not going to say that's 100%, this is just what I heard, but apparently backstabbed them on their agreements. So I think that is karma if that is the case. And yeah, I mean, honestly, there's no going back from this, if you ask me. Like, the second these guys did this, and the second they started hitting their bases, this is honestly full-out war. Even if they're not fighting, like, currently right now, there's going to be so many hostilities. There's no trusting one another with, you know, not zeroing them, right? Like, because obviously you're going to be worried that you could be zeroed at any time, and now everyone's going to be hostile. I mean, honestly, this is a really just drama-filled story. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting. I enjoyed watching it. I think that R4W won in the field of wits, though I think they lost in a lot of trades, obviously. They probably lost trade-wise, but they won all in all, right? So I think that's what matters. Though in the case of this, honestly, losing the trades can be detrimental depending on how fast the enemy strikes again, because all those troops are going to matter for the future when you might have to go back to war, you know, because these guys are obviously at a power disadvantage already. So if they're forced to fight these guys head on in like a long-term battle, this could be just very disastrous unless they can unite the alliances around the region, you know. And I think that's the big issue. Even if these guys are power hungry and want to take Metro, for example, I think I saw 4 or 5 alliances touching Metro. So even if they wanted to take Metro, they would be making an enemy of the whole region. And I think a lot of these alliances probably don't trust them already, unless they are just really tight with them all and are making agreements behind their backs, right? So just in general, I think that this is a really tricky situation, and I just might want to keep an eye on Region 14 to see what happens in the future. You know, just freaking civil wars in the region. It's absolutely insane. And I have a blast doing these videos, guys. I hope you guys are loving it, because I just wanted to spill the drama. I wanted to be like a little news channel up here. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think these guys, like, their biggest struggle is just finding a proper garrison captain, right? Like, you see here that they don't have Peterson on now, and they're struggling to, I think, kind of keep it full. Though they are managing to kind of start surrounding him more with field presence. And I think right here, yep, it's shielded, and this is the second GID knew they effed up, and now at this point, all they have to do is burn towers, detach them from the mega city, and they can just kind of surround it and just start putting their towers around it. Because even if these guys come back to try to take the mega city back, now they're forced to burn through their towers. And like I said, there is a defender attacker ratio that makes it more favorable to be defense over just losing all your troops, of course. So just in general, this is a bad spot for them. But yeah, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and I will just show you guys a little overview of the region now, and you guys can look at the alliances that I was talking about earlier. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good day or night though, and that is about it to the video. Peace out, and I will see you guys in the next one.